Very warm welcome to this Sunday's game. I am PRO for Get Games Europe. Alan Moore is my name, and we are, well, we're not on the continent of Europe, but we are in Europe, but not actually on the continental shelf, but we're a little bit off it anyway. And that's where I'm going right now to speak about another big group of teams, one of our biggest groupings of teams actually coming to the World Games in Derry. And that, of course, is Benelux, which many would say is the home of Gaelic games in Europe, but it's not quite true. Everywhere, wherever there's a Gaelic football or a sliotar or a handball, that is the home of Gaelic games in Europe. Tony Bass, okay, first of all, you're going to be multitasking at these World Games, but first of all, tell us about Benelux. How many teams have you got coming over and how many players?
Yep. Well, we've over 50 players spread across 4 teams. We have 2 men's football teams, one in the international category, one in the open sort of Irish-born category. We have a hurling team, which is in the open category, and then we have an international ladies football team. So they're predominantly Benelux. But most of the teams have 1 or 2 players from outside Benelux to try and accommodate players who didn't have a team to play for within the European setup. So it's 90% Benelux players across the 4 teams.
Listen, we know what that's like. And I was discussing with one of the Iberian players already, Iberian rep, Ollie, how at the end of the last World Games, we just put teams together just to get games, get people playing. And as she said, you actually play harder for another team because you want to impress them. So, Tony, overall, with the 4 teams, what are you expecting from Benelux? How do you think they're going to get on?
It's always so difficult to predict. I mean, I've been at all the World Games since the first one in 2015 in Abu Dhabi. It's very hard to know what to expect because you don't know the standards of the other teams. However, I am a realist in terms of, in Europe, we send as many teams as we can, whereas a lot of the other units who are further afield, like understandably, would be more of a best of selections, etc. But we would have, quietly, good hopes for our ladies football international team. A lot of good players on that. The men's international football team, there's a good core of players from the Earls of Leuven who at least would be used to playing together, so that could be a help to them. Our men's open team, that's led by our Benelux secretary Kieran Martin from Nijmegen and Monaghan. So he'll be getting over his All-Ireland semi-final disappointment, but Kieran will have that team well drilled, and we fingers crossed they'll do well. And of course, I'm looking forward to our hurling team, which is led by Des Tracy, the European hurling officer, who's recently or is in the process of relocating to the Benelux area, and him being a cat from Kilkenny. Hopefully, he'll get inspiration from this weekend, and that'll drive the team on.
Well, that's it. I know. I was speaking to him already, and he said he's going to be going to All-Ireland with you. So, he should be pumped up for that. And again, hurling officer for Europe, so he has an awful lot to put out there as well. Tony, overall, like a lot of people are, people are having fun. People are enjoying it, meeting new people, becoming part of a community. Why are the World Games so important, especially for us in Europe?
Yeah, well, I think, as I alluded to earlier on, I think we take a different approach in Europe. And that's understandable. We're the closest to Ireland in terms of travel compared to United States or Australia or Asia or Middle East or whatever. So, nearly half the teams at the World Games, I think maybe possibly even just over half the teams will be from Europe, which means that, in one way, it's almost a quantity rather than quality, although I do think there is quality across, European teams. But I think what we try and do in Europe, and, some people would disagree with it, but I think what we try and do is give as many players as possible the experience of meeting players from all around the world and going there and enjoying it. I have a little saying that it's the memories that matter more than the medals, and I really believe that because and I know last time in 2019 in Waterford, I ended up managing an Iberian native ladies team. And I hadn't met them before, but their manager got injured the week beforehand. I jumped in. By the end of that week, I would confidently say all of us are the best of friends for the rest of life. And now, but win a medal on the field, and you might never talk to someone off the team, after 2 years later when you don't play with them anymore or whatever. But yeah, I can see that team, and okay, a lot of it's just we're following each other on Facebooks and Instagrams and Twitters and whatever. But you take an interest in the people that you've met along the way, and as soon as you meet them again, I know I'll bump into them up in Derry next week, and it'll be like yesterday. And we'll be all together again because we've shared something. And when you share something, that creates a bond that, you can't break. And that's, I think, one of the wonderful things in Europe, because we play each other a lot and because we have these all-day tournaments, people sometimes get to know each other a little bit better than if it was one-off games. So what we're building here is a camaraderie, which all goes to the heart of the community aspect that is the GAA. And I like to think that that's one of the unique features of being involved in European Gaelic games is that there is a community of interest there, and there's a camaraderie that, despite all the the rivalry between teams, etc. When we have to be realistic, we're still a very small sport in Europe, and we're growing. So we need that bond to motivate ourselves, to inspire ourselves, and to support each other in a sense of solidarity to drive forward the Gaelic games agenda in Europe.
And that's the thing, of course, the World Games then brings out all that in. So we see it at the Pan Euros, we see it at different regional events or even national events or local within small, sub-regional events. So again, it's a great thing to see come forward. Tony, overall, what should, people will be watching this and thinking, okay, they're not sure because it's their first time going there. Maybe they're not sure of what to expect. What should they expect? And what do you think that most people should come away with? Because again, you've been there since the start. So what have you come away with, as an example?
For me, it's like every 3 years you get this shot in the arm, which gives you that massive motivation to go and keep on doing what we're doing with even more effort and put even more, and to appreciate everyone else's efforts just as much. And sometimes, when we're involved in sport, yes, we're competitive. I mean, who doesn't like to win? But as I say, sometimes it's about building a foundation on which some of our kids, now being a grandfather myself, some grandkids, etc., they're going to, join into something that we have built. And it's on the shoulders of the current generation. We're building something for the future. And, I think that's one thing for them all to remember. The second thing is it's great fun. Go and enjoy it. Have a great time. Don't worry about it too much. If you're competitive, if your team's competitive, great. And, you won't need to do much inspiration around that, because if you're competitive, you're going to go out there and you want to win. Not all the teams can be competitive. Some of them, as I say, it's about having the fun, enjoying the crack, and enjoying each other's company and making so many new friends. And you will make friends within your team, across other teams, and right across the whole community. There's going to be, hundreds of, not thousands of Gaelic games aficionados there whom you have something in common with before you even meet them. And that makes it so easy to get on with them. And you learn so much from each other. And that coming together of cultures, even though there's a lot of an Irish culture obviously there, but there's lots of, and just the fourth World Games, once again, the international side of it is growing even more than the Irish side. And that's what I love to see.
That's what's important thing. Tony, on that, I wish you the very, very best of luck with all the Benelux teams. And of course, you're also looking after a couple of other teams as well. I won't mention that because we're leaving to someone else. But the very best of luck. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of days in Derry.
Look forward to seeing you too, Alan.